the moment. So maybe a little bit of a creature comfort and something that we'll learn from going forward in terms of what's potentially available in terms of bringing the membership to each other in times like this. So picture yourself sitting up in the Spike Bar at your favourite table, perhaps, as we get things underway tonight. The man on my left, I'm not sure which side he's on for you, is a major champion, an 8-time PGA Tour winner, 3-time President's Cup team member. But more importantly than all of that, he is also a Victoria Golf Club member. Geoff Ogilvy, it is such a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no worries. Good to be here.
So firstly, where are you and how are you at the moment?
I'm in Beaumaris and I'm all right, but I'm a little bit bored, Like we came out of the first lockdown. I was kind of fine with the first lockdown because you spend 20 years on an airplane and in hotels. You're happy to just not be allowed to go anywhere, right? I was kind of happy the first time, but then coming back in and then the whole extension has been a bit, I need to get outside soon.
Fair enough. You don't strike me as the sourdough starter kind of guy either.
No, I've been playing video games, actually, computer games mostly, actually. I've got kids who are in that sort of age, and if you can't beat them, join them. I can't go outside, so you've got to put the competitive outlet somewhere. So I've been shooting kids on computer games. It's kind of crazy. But, yeah, watching a lot of TV too.
Yeah, fair enough. And it's good that a little bit of golf is potentially back on the screens as well. And I think that you set up, you've got quite a nice little garage set up, don't you, in terms of like an indoor range going at the moment?
Yeah, not bad. It's pretty good. I got a pretty nice net. It was all kind of bedding hanging off furniture at first, but then I kind of got a nice little net from someone helped me out with a net. So I've got the good David Golf, the mat, the one at the range, the square one, so it's good grass. And I can put the TrackMan on there and sort of try to hit it hard and hit a few shots. And it gets boring. So it's not like when I kind of had it set up, I thought I was going to do it every day. I'm not doing it every day, but it's certainly kind of one of my forms of exercise to just go down there and bang balls for an hour or something in the net. It's kind of fun. Put the music on. So there's a little bit of golf, but as I said, it's kind of nice to see the ball fly, Yeah,
you do get a little bit of feedback from the ball flight sometimes.
Yeah, right. So it's all right, but it's pretty limited. So I'm pretty ready to get outside. And it's been sunny the last couple of days. It's been nice, and it's been a horrendous winter. It's been of all winters to be stuck inside, this has been the one. But it looks starting to get nice outside, so it'll be nice to get back out there again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a sentiment shared by a lot of people on this call at the moment. And so to kick things off tonight, I thought we'd kind of do something we did a little bit with Kari Webb last week. We know the heights that your career got to, so we thought we'd kind of acknowledge the humble beginnings of how you kind of found the game of golf. Now, I think you were born in Adelaide originally, right? From the beginning, you were in.
Can't remember that though.
Okay, so you moved in quite early on in your life.
Before school, yeah. I mean, Dad had been moved over to Adelaide from Melbourne for work. They were there for 4 or 5 years and moved back. And I was born while they were there. So we moved back and they moved to Beaumaris. I went to Bowie North, right there.
Yep.
So I'm a Bowie kid. So if I was going to play golf, I mean, what a place to grow up. And Dad was into it. I played a lot of golf. I'd take a 9-iron and 3 balls out to Bowie High. You used to be allowed to hit balls at Bowie High School. Back in the good old days where people would hit balls in parks and stuff. And I did that almost every day. Then joined Cheltenham, played a lot at Sandringham on the weekends with Dad used to take me to Sandringham, then joined Cheltenham, and then the progression came over the fence in 92. So 1992, it's at 28 years, which is quite a long time to be a member. Yeah, played a bit of minor pennant, like that first year in 92, and then I think I played another sort of half season of minors and then got in the pennant team and then on from there at Vic. So pretty blessed place to grow up if you want to play golf,
Absolutely. One of my questions that I really want to kind of hone in on today is in terms of growing up on a course like Vic and the Melbourne Sandbelt, what do you think that develops within your game? And looking back kind of in your golfing adolescence, what lessons did you learn about golf because of the quality of the course?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you grow up on a golf course like Vic, which is firm and fast greens, where under the hole is important. I mean, we all know we don't hit it over the back on 16, or we don't hit it over the back on 10. That under hole is important. I think Melbourne bunkers teach you to be a great bunker player anywhere, because they're variable. I know members don't, we all complain about sandbelt bunkers being some soft, some hard. Well, how could you tell me I bladed that one because it was too firm under my feet? But what that did, if you were like me and like you, was teach us to learn how to read the lies in bunkers by look. You couldn't trust your feet. You had to really understand sand. And so a little thing like that translates everywhere in the world, because you get good at learning what a bunker lie will do, because Melbourne bunkers vary. Fast greens teach you how to putt really. Short grass teaches you how to chip properly. If you learn how to chip on short grass, you can chip anywhere in the world. But if you only learn how to chip off out of rough, chipping off short grass, you'd be blown away. But PGA, the US tour players who grow up in rough-based courses can't chip off short grass at all. And you've probably seen stuff like that. I mean, it's a strange phenomenon. I think Melbourne's a very windy climate. Generally, there's always kind of a breeze, and it's growing up. It ticks every box if you want kind of that broad kind of golf game, like not just Vic, but the sandbelt in general. For all those reasons, it's firm. You know, you always undulation slopes. You got balls above your feet, below your feet, that sort of stuff. So it was a hyper competitive environment. I mean, Cheltenham we had 10 or 15 juniors who were there all day, every day. And then some of them came across to Vic, and guys like Matt Oldham, I'm sure I'm missing a few, but that group, our pennant group and the Woodlands pennant group, especially in my time, we were all really close. We played all the Ivo Wittens. It was just a hyper competitive group of kids that we were at the golf course all day, every day, you know, and they were at their golf course all day, every day. And we would meet at the weekend at the Latrobe Open or something. And then we would be playing in pennant on Sunday. And it's the whole thing. The Melbourne environment, when there's lots of kids around frothing on golf, it's just the perfect situation, you know, if you want to end up being a pro.
Yeah, well, it is kind of like looking back on, I think, a lot of the careers that have stemmed from Melbourne, and even a lot of the Australians, because you know, with the AIS and VIS programs here, they came and played pennant throughout the Melbourne Sandbelt as well. In terms of your experience on the VGC pennant team, can you talk us through, you know, that kind of because it's kind of their first experience on a team as well, in terms of that real club environment coming together. Who was on the team with you?
My first few teams, Chris Tatt was always on my teams. Chris Tatt and Bruce Peacock. Brucey still plays a bit of pennant from now and then. He's the manager now, right? Yeah, I think. Pennant boss. Yeah. So Brucey was unbelievable. He would come in, he would play 3 rounds for the whole year. He'd turn up in February, he'd play a couple of Saturdays, and then you'd go undefeated at number 5 in Division 1 every time. Like, just a freak show. Bruce Peacock, legend. Chris Tatt used to come down from Ballarat with Travis as well, would play his son, and Rod Tatt. So we had plenty of Tats around. We had Jamie McCallum, Gavin Veering, Matt Oldham, Paul Skinner, Ben Townsend, Dean Dixon. So I'm sure a lot of members remember all that sort of period. It was a great period. We were very competitive. Obviously, Vic's always been really a pretty decent pennant team. But there's one year we won Division 2 because we'd got relegated for some reason the year before. We just had a bad year. And Division 2, we were undefeated in Division 2 and just absolutely annihilated everybody. And we were probably the best team in Victoria, but Woodlands won Division 1 that year. And then for the next 2 or 3 years, we had this big kind of thing with Woodlands. And yeah, it was a great patch. It was a brilliant thing. It was our first team, as you say, and you probably learn how to drink beers a little bit earlier than the law said on the like with the jugs on the tables after pennant. In the cars on the way back, and we'd all go out on Sunday nights and stuff. It was a really good period of life, that, and the club loved it. You could tell. Bob Lester was our manager. He was pennant manager forever, just a champion, and he would do anything for all of us. And yeah, what a time, mate.
Yeah, I think, well, looking back, I think you can see your face lighting up about it. It was such a period of time for all of us where we're, you know, trying to find our feet, but also be a part of a really supportive community as well. That was you were playing for the members, which was always, I think, such a privilege. I'm going to ask you about the pennant team parties. Now, are there any stories that stick out to you that are actually suitable? Because I mean, we had a couple on the women's side where there was dress ups and concerts and that kind of thing, but I feel like it might have been a bit different for the boys.
I think it was a little different. Yeah, we didn't have any concerts. The Sunday, generally, we were very behaved at the club, generally. Often, remember the old Spike bar with the big snooker table in it?
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of the period, and we would usually never really venture too far upstairs, just in case we got a bit untidy. So it wasn't too bad, but generally the pattern ended up, we would go out after pennant, we would go out, and we would go. Sunday was a tough one, right? Because there wasn't many places to go, but we would go to we would finish the Sunday session at the Flower in Port Melbourne.
Okay.
And then I think it was the Star Bar on Clarendon Street.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Voodoo Surf Gods used to play at the Star Bar on Sunday nights, and so for probably 2 years in a row, after every Sunday night for 7 or 8 weeks in a row, we would go to the Flower and the Star Bar. So that was kind of the pattern. So we were generally behaved, I would have thought, but certainly there weren't too many people on the pennant team who weren't having a few after we played. Yeah.
The old copper mugs, I remember them well. For you, when you look back at Vic, in terms of, you know, your introduction to the club and people that made you feel welcome, is there any members that kind of stand out to you in terms of making your experience in the club and kind of bringing you into it? Is it more through pennant or for you, or how did that?
Well, Ray Spriggs was my proposer, and I'm sure a bunch of people remember Ray. Ray, legend, brilliant guy. We knew him through Little Athletics. His kids ran, and I knew his boys were a similar age, and we'd sort of done some other stuff away from golf. And so when I progressed after Little Athletics times and I started playing golf and getting really into it, he proposed me. And so he was kind of the big influence. He got me in the club, took me for my first few games, and sitting up in the rotunda, like with, I think Mr. Metcalf at the top, I was calling him Mr. Metcalf at the time, was captain. So Ian Metcalf, I played a few games with him early. He was really sort of guided me in. Gerald Focken was the pennant manager at first, and then Bob Lester was really great to all of us. He was brilliant, Bob. Always up at the club. He just loved the good people who played in the pennant team, and he just wanted to help them in for pennant, but not just for pennant, just to help them become, you know, better humans, you know. So Bob was a brilliant member for me. And Simo made every trip into the pro shop just the best fun ever, you know, has done forever. Always excited, probably not excited enough. And I wish I could go back to the times when he used to come down and hit balls on the range when we were down there. Mm-hmm. And we were all into like the video cameras and all the Ledbetter stuff and like the full thing, right? And he'd come down and just say, "What are you guys doing that for? If you want to hit a draw, just kind of toe the face in and close the face, it'll draw. What else do you need to know, right?" And now I wish I'd listened, because that's all you do need to think about, right? That's all there is. This golf is as simple as Simo used to tell us. And he had brilliant stories from the days and stuff, yeah. So I used to really love, when he came down the range and hit balls was one of my favourite times. You know, it was brilliant, yeah.
Sometimes I wonder, you know, if obviously so many members have kind of followed your career going forward, that I wonder if they realise, you know, that the impacts that each of them have made going forward. And it's nice to hear you talk about it. One of the reasons I kind of asked you about it. But moving forward in your career from amateur to pro stages, so you turned pro, I think it was in about 98, was it? 1998?
98, yeah, the end of 98, yeah.
Yeah, so you go to Europe and to very quickly after that to the PGA Tour, and spent, you know, a handful of years kind of quite steadily finding your feet over there. What did you learn during those initial years that kind of helped you reach the heights that you did later on in your career?
Well, I think it kind of starts a bit earlier than that. Like the Europe was a natural progression from what I'd been doing, you know, like I'd been playing all the IVOs and all the national selection events and all the Riversdale Cups and stuff. And then I got a few I played 2 or 3 times. We had a little bit of funding to get a plane ticket over to the UK, and we used to kind of shoestring a little amateur trip budget. You know, we played the British Amateur and the Sanders Links Trophy and stuff. So I'd done that in the 3 years previous and played a few little amateur tournaments, little trips to America to play USAM and Western Am and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'd kind of, as I said, I was almost a mini little professional amateur before I was actually a professional. Yeah. Full time. I worked at Albert Park a little bit when the VIS was there, and so I'd work in the shop and then I'd go hit balls, and it was a good little setup. But pretty much I'd just been a golfer, you know. So, and then Europe because I'd played sort of a handful of amateur tournaments there the 3 years previous, when I went to Europe for the longer trip as a pro, it was sort of just the extension of that. You know, it was just next step. So it was a progression. I wasn't in that much of a hurry to get to America, to be honest. I got the lucky exemption to the final stage of the USQ school, and was actually going over there kind of blasé. It's like, oh, well, whatever. I kind of was looking forward to playing in Europe more, to be honest. But I'd rather play in America, but it wasn't like I was desperate to get there yet. But I had the exemption, so I might as well go use it. And I'd already had a good start in Europe. The Johnny Walker was in the previous year, and I had a lot of money up. So I went there with sort of no stress. I basically had a 2-year exemption in Europe and got through the USQ school, and was like, well, if you got that, that's like the Willy Wonka's ticket in golf, right? The PGA Tour card. So, yeah, never looked back. Played well, finished third in my first event in Tucson, and that was it. So loved every minute of it.
Yeah, and the momentum obviously built quite steadily throughout those years, and then you hit kind of 2005 and 2006. You pick up early wins in both of those years. Then you get to the US Open at Winged Foot. Can you tell us, in terms of your preparation for that week, were you feeling good about your game going into it? Did you have any sense of kind of what was about to unfold at all?
I was playing well that year. I'd won the match play, as you said earlier, and the match play was such a bonus tournament to play well in and win, because match play is that you've got must make putts and must hit shots all day, right? And in a stroke play event, maybe you have to must get up and down to make the cut on Friday, or you must make this to win the tournament or something. But there's not a lot of it's a bit grayer. Match play is black and white. If your opponent hits it close on the first hole, you better hit it close, or you're going to lose the hole. And so when you go the whole week, I guess the point is I felt like battle hardened that whole year because I'd had that experience. I went extra holes the first 4 games in that match play. So 19, 21, 19, 21 or something. So I'd made a lot of putts that I needed to make and got up and down. So I felt that all year. So I felt good about myself under pressure, but I hadn't been playing that amazing leading up to it. But, I played okay at Westchester the week before, and walking off the last green at Westchester, weirdly, I played with Elkington on Sunday for randomly. And he goes, you're going to win the US Open next week. You're playing well enough. Go win. And it's the first I'd even thought about it, to be honest. I mean, I'd thought about the US Open, and I'd already been to Winged Foot for a practice round and all that, but it's the first that I'd actually realistically thought, well, yeah, you reckon? And I didn't really make much of that. But then as the week developed and I was hanging in there, I actually did think about that later on, that he'd mentioned that. So maybe he planted the idea in my head. I don't know.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So you the whole week you managed to kind of stay on the flanks of the leaders and put yourself into a good position going into that final day. I think you were 1 shot back of Ferry and Mickelson on that final day. And it was a tumultuous one. Looking back, I think there was 5 different leaders on Sunday, and there was 15 lead changes on that final Sunday as well. And you got off to a really good start. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience on that final day and the highs and lows and challenges?
Yeah, well, I started really well. I mean, obviously to key on a round like that, the hardest part I find of things like that is the sleep in the morning, because the tee time's not till 2:30 or something really late, and you want to sleep till 10, but you don't. You wake up at 6:30, and you've been thinking about it all day and the nerve. But to get away to a good start is really important, because I always felt like once you start playing golf, you're kind of back to doing what you do. Like, this is what I do, and I'm comfortable playing golf. But that lead up to the first tee and the first sort of hole or two, I found really important. And I played them really well. Easy pars, I think, on the first couple of holes, or as easy as they can be. And I birdied 5 and 6, I think, to go in the lead. Mm-hmm. And felt really good about it. Wasn't freaked out, was comfortable or whatever. But the next sort of through 14, so the next 6 or 7 holes, I just kind of played average. I didn't do anything bad. Wasn't freaking out. Just 3 bogeys in 6 holes. It's kind of normal at Winged Foot, right? It wasn't that bad. I just probably wasn't playing US Open winning golf, but it wasn't horrible. And then I walking off the 14th green, I just made bogey to go to 5 over. And I think Phil was 4 over at the time, but he was behind us, and he just hit some sort of crazy shot out of the rough to stiff again. And so I'm going to go 2 behind, and there's there's Monty and Furyk and Harrington are all in the mix, and VJ, I think, somewhere thereabouts. And I'm kind of, my head's a bit down, looking at my shoes or whatever, walking to 15th tee. My caddies just said, well, well, what are you doing? Like, no one's going to par these last 4 holes. You kidding me? Like, if you par these last 4 holes, you got a real chance. What are you doing? And even if you don't, if they do, why wouldn't you just still, let's finish this off? You've had a good week, you know. And I was just saying, I hadn't given up, but I was just a bit flat. You know, you have those moments in a golf, you're not up the whole time. I was just a bit flat. And he goes, calm, just par the last 4 holes. No one's going to do that. So I'm like, okay. And for whatever reason, I paid attention to him for once. And he had made a great solid par, like middle of the fairway. 15 was not, it was an iron off the tee. So it was like a 3 iron or a 2 iron or something. And then like a 7 iron and then a nice 2 putt. And then drove in the rough on 16, but hacked it up sort of just short of the green and got up and down. 17, it started getting a bit hairy. I drove it way right, like right of everything. And I was under trees in long rough with about 60 yards to the fairway. I had to go under a limb and over grass. I couldn't get it back to the fairway. So I had to just get it to a spot where maybe I can get it on the green for 3.
Right.
Make a miraculous par at this point. So I moved it up all right, and then I couldn't really even get it on the green, and I missed it pin high left, just in the kind of semi-rough, kind of a yard or 2 off the green, pin high, and chipped in. So walking up to 17, as I've already had 3 shots and I'm still not on the green, I'm back to that kind of looking at my shoes sort of mood. And once again, he's like, well, whatever, just chip it in, you know. Again, there's the power of suggestion. I mean, I don't know, whatever. It got said and the ball went in. So I hit a nice shot. It was a relatively simple, the chip on 17 was a simple chip in that I only had to fly. It was obvious that where I had to land it. I had to land it just on the green. I had to land it there. And it was a good lie. And there was nothing too skillful about what I did. But obviously the timing was nice to hit the right shot at the right time. And it went in. And all of a sudden my mood was brilliant. And I thought, wow, people who win tournaments do things like that. So I got this real kind of boost of good feeling about it from a bad feeling 30 seconds before, you know. So a gloomy feeling, I should say, not a bad feeling. So 18, I had a great tee shot. I smashed it up the left, but it was in kind of a sort of a month-old divot, kind of a little bit of sand in it, like not horrendous, not a problem really on a Thursday morning, but just not the complication you want on Sunday afternoon, you know. But hit a good shot. I thought I'd hit actually like one of the shots of US Open history sort of thing, like a Sean McKeel walk-off sort of shot. And it was 2 yards short from going all the way down next to the hole. Instead, it went the other way and came way off the front, probably 30 yards short of the pin, up this big thing. And yeah, hit a great pitch from there and made a good putt. So at the time, we didn't know. I was 5 over on the 18th tee. Monty was 4 over in the group in front of us, and Phil was 4 over in the group behind. Monty had driven it on the fairway, and then he hit his second shot. We had no idea. It wasn't until we got to the green that we seen that he'd made double, because the only scoreboard was at the green, and we couldn't see it till we got to the green. So we saw him miss a putt, so we figured he didn't make. We heard a kind of a groan, so we figured he'd made bogey, but he could have missed a birdie putt. So, but he actually made double. So now I realised just before this pitch shot that there's only one guy in front of me, and if I get this up and down, I'm in at 5, and that's leader in the clubhouse with only one guy who can beat that. So yeah, get it up and down, and then from the scorer's hat, watched Phil play. Kind of, he'd already hit the tee shot by the time I got there, but watched him hit his second shot in the tree and then drop down, and then yeah, it was a nice 10 minutes in my life. That serious.
Yeah, no kidding. It certainly went down kind of in the history books next to your name. In terms of the celebrations, and I guess in a way that the notoriety that win afforded you, what are some of the things, let's talk about Sunday night, if there's anything that stands out to you in terms of getting back potentially in one piece, but then also, you know, what came of it in terms of, I don't know, I guess the experiences.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I mean, well, Sunday night was good. I mean, you finished late at the US Open. I think it's probably a 7 o'clock finish on the presentation. Like last group finishes about 7, so I didn't get out of Winged Foot till probably about 9:30. There's a lot. I mean, you win a tournament and the media attention is nuts, but you win a major and it's like it's never ending, right? And so basically they basically let you go about 9:30, and so we went back to the hotel that we'd been at for 2 weeks, and we'd all been staying there. And I'd be going out to dinner most nights with Scotty, Adam, and the World Cup was on at the time. Like, it was the first one that we'd got back into for a long time, the one that we played Brazil. 2006. And so they had a big screen set up in this hotel. We'd been watching the World Cup for 2 weeks. And so we were all back to the hotel, and Scotty had got off Ernie's plane and come back to the hotel to have a few.
Yeah,
and there was just Lynchy was there, a bunch of a few riders that we knew, a few riders, and had tour hangers on, those the tour hanger on types, all kind of friends. And then it was one of those hotel bars where everyone coming into the hotel walks through, So there was, I don't know, 50 people drank out of the trophy that night, like just randoms walking through who were staying in the Crown Plaza at White Plains. It was a brilliant night. I don't know when it ended, but it was very dusty in the morning with the wake-up call at like 5:45 to get in the executive car to like drive you down to Manhattan, because Wingfoot's 45 minutes north of the city. So down to Manhattan to do ESPN, Fox News, CNN, The Letterman Show, all that. Having like phones shoved in your face for radio interviews from England and stuff all the time. And like, it was just crazy, right? The first 24 hours was nuts. And then it chilled out a little bit. We came back to Australia because we were always going to, and it was quite a bit of a scene down here, which was kind of fun, Went to Hoylake from here, and then when I got to Hoylake, it was like, wow, this is a major, and they actually like the cameras are there when I got out of my car. Like, what's that all about? Like I'd always just been happy to be in the field, right? I mean, it wasn't that big a jump. I mean, I guess I'd been creeping up on this. Like I'd had top tens and stuff in majors, but you know what I mean? Like until you win one, no one thinks you're going to win one, Yeah, the level of attention and the autograph seeking is absolutely outrageous. In the first couple of normal tournaments I played in America, there's like, I understand everyone wanting to get autographs, but there was these 20 or 30 guys who would always be at every tournament with like 25 magazines that the US Open, the week after the magazine, the golf week that come out, and Geoff, I was on the front of that. He would have 25 of them. Like, can you sign all these, mate? I'll sign the top one. And then he would be like, you would see him push kids out of the way and like put the golf weeks in there. Like crazy stuff. That side of life, this greasy side to that it blew me away. So that was interesting. But they went away from me and they went back to Tiger and stuff. But there was about a month there that was like, wow, that's a different side of the world I knew about. And then just the doors that it opens. Generally, if I call a golf course to play, they usually say yes, We get a ticket to the Masters forever. I mean, I had a 10-year exemption into like the US Open, 5 years into everything else, and I get a ticket to be a guest at the Masters every year forever. Like major winners are always invited to come and like just hang out in the clubhouse and just be around, you know what I mean? So that's a nice side perk. And just there's a level of whether it's correct or not, whether I've hit any better shots than anybody else, it's very debatable, but it's a major winner's just afforded a level of respect that other ones aren't, whether that's correct or not, I don't know. I can't say that, but that's what happens, right? And everywhere you go, people kind of want you to come to their golf course and play and come to their tournament. And, it's amazing how many people watch majors, and how many people remember who've won them. It strikes me to still, I get people who come up. I was Marshall. I was on the third hole at Wingfoot in 2006. We said g'day. We talked on the tee for 30 seconds and stuff like that. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's just because I'm just living my little journey, right? I'm just playing my thing, but it's amazing. You win a small tournament, a few people see it, but you win the US Open, everybody sees it, and everybody has a story about what they remember about that ending and stuff. Yeah, just the scale of it surprised me. How many people watch it.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of, in a way, it's a little bit like the major champion title is a little bit like the doctorate of the education world.
Yes.
I think, it's when you call someone a doctor, you call someone a major champion. I think it's part of kind of that introduction process. And I think you had to get a couple of introductions right when you went to the White House, didn't you? Did you go and have a White House dinner?
I did. I did, but that was before. That was weirdly like 6 weeks before. That was in 2006. That's a pretty fun story, actually. We got this invitation to the White House to go to a state dinner. And I guess state dinners are a really big deal. It was only his second, it was George W. And it was only his second state dinner that was his 6th year in office, right? So it it was a big deal, and it was honouring John Howard. John Howard was the guest, that they were honouring this diplomatic relationship they had with Australia, and like I guess they were scrambling for Australian people to just come and sit on a table, and they went down through like the Jackmans and all that sort of stuff, and they ended up, oh shit, like that, there's a golfer, he might come, you know. So anyway, we're like, yeah, we got to go. So Julie and I get the invitation, get the whole tux, get the thing. You get all these security checks, and they're checking your passports and stuff. And you've got to get a car service that's a White House approved car service to take you to the White House. You can't just go in your car. You have to have a VHA sort of style setup that's approved. It's a White House car. And then the dogs sniff your car, and the cameras go under when you go in. And we go in, and like there's the waiting room where you kind of that meeting room, and really a formal dinner. Everyone forms in one room. There's a piano guy in the corner, right? Everyone has a few cocktails, and then you go through the meeting line to the dining room. Okay. Really fancy. Anyway, we meet George and John and Jeanette and Laura, and we through the meeting line and take some photos and stuff. And George is chatting to Julie, because Julie's from Texas, and they have mutual friends, because everyone in Texas is like 2 degrees of separation, right? And we go, and they just give us a table number. Like when you come to the end of this line, they say, all right, Mr. Ogilvy, yeah, you're on table this, Mrs. Ogilvy on this. And we were on different tables, which freaked us out a little bit. And we get in there, and I'm like looking around at tables, and it's got all the nameplates. And I'm like, it's got Rupert Murdoch on my table number. I'm like, wow, it's amazing. And I go around, it's Julie Eisenhower, who is Julie Nixon Eisenhower. It's just Nixon Eisenhower married into the Eisenhower. Yeah, like American royalty. The president. So it's the president, Julie Eisenhower, Jeanette Howard, the president, Julie Nixon Eisenhower, and then me at the table. And I'm like, I haven't won the US Open at this point at all. Like, why am I here? There's 5 Australians ranked higher than me, like in pecking order, who are in America right now. Why am I here? You know, but there it was. And the whole night, Murdoch's there. It was like the CEO of Exxon or something. I mean, it was just a crazy like amount of people. The level of people. Condoleezza Rice was at our table. Yeah, crazy situation. And all he wanted to do was talk to me about golf. Didn't talk to any of them, like any of them. So yeah, I talked to Rupert a little bit, and Condoleezza Rice, and she'd just taken up golf, and yeah, it was an amazing 3 or 4 hours of life. Yeah, it was nuts. Yeah. And then went away, and actually, yeah, a couple of months, like a month later, won the US Open. So it actually happened before, but yeah, there's an opportunity that comes out of this sort of stuff that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of coined, like, I feel like after the US Open, you've got 3 WGC titles to your name. You kind of created a little bit of an aura about yourself in terms of a guy that plays well in the big events under pressure. You know, you walked away with an Aussie Open as well, and an Oz PGA. To win on home soil is one of the hardest things to do. Do you reckon that was more about like certain parts of your golf game, or the mental side of things for you?
Oh, absolutely mental. I think I get I had trouble. If I had trouble in anything in golf, it was Thursdays and Fridays. It was getting, I had to get into it, you know. My chair just went down.
We're losing it.
For some reason, I always played my best like on the last 9 holes on Sunday. It's like I paid attention, you know. It wasn't like I wasn't paying attention early, but I let what if I tried, I would mess with my swing and toy around, and like if I was having a good score and if I kind of got in the mix, then I was fine, you know. It was almost like I needed it to be really stressful to like actually get my head exactly where it needed to be, you know. Yeah, because once I got into a tournament, I usually did really well in it. You know, it was just, I had to get into the thing. Some guys start on the first tee on Thursday. And when you do this, people imagine when you play one golf tournament, people look forward to whatever, the club championships or the medal or anything that they're into, right? Or the Australian Open or the Masters or whatever it is. You'd think you would be looking forward to it. But when you play on tour 25 weeks a year for years and years and years, Thursday mornings happen every week, you know, so it's hard to get up for it like you would if it was the only golf tournament you played for a whole year. And I obviously needed that to be up for it, because the bigger the tournament, the better I did, you know. So for whatever reason, it's a good thing and a bad thing. I should have been able to get there whenever I wanted, you know. But at least it's the nice side of things to be good when it really, really matters, you know. So that was nice. I really, and it's probably, I don't think there's any special skill other than that I love it. Like, that's the drug for me, is contention, you know. That's the high that I want. I mean, it's not the winning. The winning is great. But hitting shots, like just being in the mix, like with two guys playing really well, or for three or four guys playing really well, and just like having that thing and hitting great shots on top of each other or holding putts on top of each other in a really big situation, to me, that's like utopia. You know, that's it for me. You know.
It's a nice segue into the President's Cup as well, which you've now seen from both sides of things. 3-time member from 2007 to 11, and now this past time round, assistant captain when we were back at Royal Melbourne at the end of last year. How's your relationship with kind of that event? Because it's not always like, obviously representing the international side is a huge tick. It's one of the biggest honours you can get. But also, I feel like there's kind of a little bit of a tested kind of relationship for the internationals with the event because of the imbalance sometimes.
That would be fair. Although in my time, most players have just loved every minute of it. You know, we're a little bit we start behind the 8 ball a little bit with some language barrier and culture difference. You know, they're all, the American team is the American team, and they also get to do it every year. You know, they have the Ryder Cup, President's Cup, Ryder Cup, President's Cup, which wears them out. But they also get practice at it, and they get to practice on us and then take it to the Ryder Cup, or they get beaten up at the Ryder Cup and they get to like take it out on us. You know, so there's a little bit of that involved too. But everybody I've ever played with and who's been involved just loves everything about the event. It's not a tedious thing at all. I think we like it more than the Americans do. It's tough. Like their average world rank last time was like 12 or something, and ours was like 43. Like, so just purely on a numbers thing, that's a hard mountain to climb. But this time was the best we did. Ernie did a great job as captain. He got everyone revved up, and he didn't want to do it again, and everyone was begging him to do it again, like refusing to take no for an answer. But Ernie's Ernie, and he's going to do what he wants. So, yeah, it's a brilliant tournament. It's my favourite tournament that I've ever been involved with in golf by far. I mean, if you picked me a favourite tournament, it would be the Masters to be a player. I think the Masters is just everything a golf tournament needs to be, and more for everybody involved: spectators, fans, like on TV, being there, players, everything, caddies, everyone has. It's just a perfect tournament, right? But the President's Cup's the best memories and the most fun I ever had. You know, it's just tremendous. I had Greg Norman, I had Gary Player as a captain, Greg Norman as a captain. I've been an assistant captain to Nick Price and assistant captain to Ernie Els. I mean, come on. I mean, how else are you ever going to get time to expend, like, to be in their hotel rooms talking about stuff and having a beer after every round and stuff? You know, it's just brilliant stuff. Like, experience you couldn't pay for that. It was just, that's the best times in my life, playing golf for the President's Cups, a captain or assistant or playing.
Yeah, it's no doubt. It's for people outside the US, it's really, and from the international side, it's kind of the pinnacle that we could reach pre-Olympics, and who knows how that'll kind of evolve on its own. But what I've kind of loved about last year was Australian golf being showcased as a fantastic leveler. I feel like that was kind of something that was taken away as part of the conclusions of the league.
Oh, absolutely. And like, one of the nicest things is that Tiger, who obviously is Tiger, that's his favourite style of golf. His favourite golf is Royal Melbourne or Melbourne golf. And it was maybe, I don't know how many people studied how everyone plays, and I don't know if pros look at golf differently, but he was so obviously the best player on that property at that point. Like, he wasn't the best player on any normal course, but at Royal Melbourne, it was so obvious that his experience and genius, it gave him such an unfair advantage almost, that like people weren't going to beat Tiger at Royal Melbourne. And that's why Royal Melbourne is so great, is that the best golfer of the last 20 ever, maybe, who's not the best golfer in the world right now, that doesn't matter. He's the best golfer ever. So he was the best at Royal Melbourne because Royal Melbourne brings that out in people, you know. So, yeah, every time we have a tournament in Melbourne, everyone goes away like shaking their head saying, why isn't all golf like that? It's true. I mean, we're not just, they do. And when it comes from guys like Tiger and all the way down, that US team, whatever they said in the media, to us, they were saying the same thing. Oh my God, how good is this? They loved it, every minute of it.
Awesome. In terms of, kind of your concept of golf design as well, the Melbourne Sandbelt style. Obviously, you're involved with Sandy Golf Links as well, which is a project I know that you're pretty passionate about it. After talking already tonight about how you kind of cut your teeth there as well. When you look back on your kind of course design career, what do you think your signature will be? You know how kind of people say, oh, the Nicholas complexes and so forth. Like, what is going to be what you leave on all of these golf courses?
Well, hopefully there's no signature. Hopefully no one can tell. Hopefully just people think that's a good course. I mean, look, I'm involved with some very talented people, and we all bring a lot of kind of stuff to the picture. It's a very collaborative effort when you ever come up with any of this sort of stuff. But I'd like to think, for me, the reason why I think it's important is that for anyone who's ever played, and most members of Victoria play great courses, obviously Vic's one of them, but other places that excite you. When I play courses like Augusta or St Andrews or Cypress Point or anything that I love, regardless of I've name dropped a few, but like, you're all of a sudden on the 17th. You know that feeling? It's like, seriously, we've only got one hole to go. No, that feeling? It's just like the best and the worst feeling in the world. You've only got one hole left, and it seems like you've been out there for 5 minutes. That's important, and that's why people play golf. And that's the golf course and the environment that does that. It's just, and when I started realizing that my rounds at the old course felt like they went in 10 minutes, and my rounds around other courses felt like they took 7 hours. Like, I realized how important it is to people, whether they notice it or not. And I want people to love it as much as I love it. And if one of the ways is to just talk glowingly about the game, but the other one is to actually leave a mark. And like, golf is a more interesting game on a course that interests you. So and then it provides maybe a different little test every single time, and it's just you would go for a walk there even if you weren't hitting a shot. All those sort of things. Just want to build nice places that people, when they play, they want to come back and play it again. If that happens, then I think you've succeeded.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like, for a lot of really passionate golfers, it's like reading your favorite book for the first time. For the first time when you go and play a golf course, you only get that experience once. Like you say, you get to like the last 30 pages of the book, the 17th hole, which is lovely. But in terms of your legacy, you're kind of building one as well through the Geoff Ogilvy Foundation, and that's got a little bit of a different setup to a lot of kind of the scholarships around the world. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're trying. I mean, I obviously am big on, when I played, at the early days of me playing on the tour in the US, we had 22, I think, a couple of years, exempt players on the US tour, which is a lot, right? And it's gradually kind of dropped down, and we just don't have the numbers up there that we did before. And there's cycles in these things, and there's no rights or wrongs anywhere. But I just felt like coming back and being here, that it would be nice to share the wealth of my experience and my network. My network in golf is kind of nutty, like, I can call a few people, you know what I mean, and open a few doors, and what would have made the difference to me pre-turning pro, like in those last few years, what would have made the difference to me? And it would have been access to a person like me, to play golf with, and sort of, not, I wouldn't say mentor, but just kind of just tell a few stories, and just to kind of explain what's coming, where you want to be, what actually realistically is coming. It isn't really about having like a pronating left forearm on the downswing. Like, that's part of it, but that's not actually the sport. Touring golf is not golf. Being a pro, 90% of the skills of being a pro is actually not playing golf. It's all the skills of being a pro, as you know. It's quite you've got to love golf so much that nothing would make you not like it again. You know what I mean? Because it'll test you, and just to kind of get that across, and just to get them playing more golf and hitting less balls, and providing, ultimately, we'd love to kind of have sort of even realist houses and sort of set up some memberships at clubs in America and members setups. And so there's a London house where the kids can go stay, and we've got them on these 3 courses you can go play if you want. And there's an Arizona house and a Florida house, and that would be ideal to me, because that's a difference maker too. Those first couple of years when you turn pro, you kind of you get your hand held all of a sudden, and then as soon as you take the asterisk off your name and you turn pro, everybody stops holding your hand and you're on your own, you know. And you get snapped up by some grease merchant, snake oil salesman manager who kind of leads you wherever he wants to go, right? And that's what happens. So to kind of that period of a kid's life, sort of, if there's any part of my knowledge and like experience that could help with them there, because I feel like some of those things have been going a bit wrong, going away. But just more than anything, just trying to get them playing golf a lot more. Just play golf. The elite golfers in Melbourne should be together. The 20 or 30 or 15 or 12 or however many you want to put in that, they should be together playing golf Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every week, all the time. Like, why are we not? We're all playing par comps, Stableford comps at Peninsula, and one's over at Latrobe, and one's down at Vic, and one's at Royal Melbourne. It's like, well, no, why aren't they all playing together? Because that's how they're going to get better, you know. If I can have any part in like helping that happen, you know, that's the spirit that the foundation's in. And you want to fit in with what GA's doing and fit in with what the PGA does, and kind of sort of fill any gaps that haven't been filled yet. So.
Yeah, and I was reading through, Paul Skinner actually gave me one of the kind of the brochures about it. Yeah. I was reading through the different levels of contribution as well, which I found really interesting, because kind of the breakdown in terms of donations and what that kind of gives to the donors as well was quite fascinating. But there was this massive underlying just theme of equality on all fronts in terms of socioeconomic status, gender, whatever it was. And I feel like that's something that you have really become a champion of in terms of the women's game. It was so refreshing. And I was so proud to hear you kind of speak up about your experience in terms of more so the Vic Open, but about what can be learned from both sides of the game. And I feel like that's really important in a club setting as well, where we have male and female members. Kind of curious as to what triggered that, or if it's something that you've kind of always been aware of and just hadn't spoken up about before.
I hadn't been aware of at all, really, because when you're young, the junior women's golf in Australia at my age was disastrous. There just wasn't much. Like, Kari was a bit of an outlier at the point, right? Kari and Rachel were a bit of outliers, you know what I mean? And there was some good players around having a crack, but there wasn't a scene, you know. Like we had 50 kids who were playing Ivos every weekend and like frothing on golf. There was 3 girls, and we knew them all, right? And they would hit balls every now and then. You know, it was just froth on golf. And anyway, so I didn't. And then over the years, for whatever reason, I got really into watching the Dinah Shore in Rancho. They're playing there this week, right? It's like 150. What are they doing? But I got really into watching that tournament. It just fit with my schedule. I was always home and I got into watching it. And I'm like, I really love that tournament. I love watching it. I don't know why they jump in the water at the end, but I love the tournament, right? And the course kind of looks a bit awful, but it doesn't matter. They've been playing there for so long that that's what's cool about it, you know? So I got into watching that, and then I had some friends. Tommy Watson was caddying for So Young. Tom Watson, who was playing independent sort of era when I was there. Not Tom Watson, the British Open champion, but Tom Watson, the Victoria Golf Club member, who's now a professional golfer, who's caddied for a long time. Well, he caddied for she's been top 5 for 10 years, right? So Young.
Yeah, she reached world number 1. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Won a couple of majors. She won Rancho. Anyway, so I got to know her a little bit, and then Sue and Minji. So it came kind of late. I love watching Kari play golf. I thought Kari played golf like I wanted to play golf. Yeah. You know, she struck the ball properly. She flighted it. Wow, Kari played proper golf. And I know I'm not just doing that because she was here last week. She actually really flushed it. And you know she did. Next level. No one played like her. Arnica hit it straight, but Kari flushed it, you know? And I kind of got into it at that point, but sort of drifted away. I always watched Rancho and stuff. And then when I played my first, and I getting to know So Young and Minji and Sue, and sort of, wow, there's some quality golf getting played these days on the LPGA. Brooke Henderson, oh my goodness, when I saw her hit it, I want to hit it like her, right? It's nuts. Like I had no idea, because the difference was the last time I'd gone to an LPGA tournament, I think there was tournaments at Yarra Yarra when I was a kid, like 18 or something, right? I think I remember. And there was a couple of good players there, but like it wasn't like it is now. Like the level's nuts right now. It's really, really good. And then the Vic Open, from certain perspectives, I don't care what anybody says, from a certain perspective, the Vic Open is the best tournament in the world. From a certain perspective, you know, it works so well, and it's so universally liked by the people who are there. Besides not finding a spot on the range or the putting green, that's a problem.
It is,
because 2-4 fields is a lot of people, and there are issues with it. But the idea of it's just works so well, and the guys are watching the girls work all week. The girls are watching the guys work all week. There's something to learn from both, positives and negatives from both. And it's just such an interesting take on watching group after group play in such a different style, but be doing it at the top level. You know, I don't know. There's just something really cool about it. And I bought in my first year. Everyone told me how good it was, and I thought, nah, it's going to be rubbish. You know, not anti women's golf, but just like, what are we doing with 300 people at one venue? That's just too many people. But wow, it works, and it's great. And yeah, I've come to respect that the golf that's played on the LPGA is my appreciation has gone to where it should be, I think. And most guys, but my peers, don't even bother to look, you know, generally. Maybe a little. I mean, that's a massive generalization. A bunch of them do, right? But that old traditional men's headspace about they're not playing properly is completely like just not founded anymore. So yeah, someone has to say it, you know, and I wasn't saying it just because someone has to say it. I was honestly answering a question that I was asked. And if that helps more people, it helps it happen more often around the world, that'd be good. Because there's absolutely no reason why that sort of tournament format the tour should cross paths 3 or 4 times a year. You know, it would be brilliant, you know. I don't know, it works in tennis.
Yeah, no, it does.
And it's better in golf. It even translates better to golf, I think.
Yeah.
You know, the group after group thing. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Husband watches the man, wife watches the women. They swap. They watch the other side. It's like perfect, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's an interesting equation. I'm curious as to whether or not it does kind of feed its way into the Aussie Opens, and whether that's something that we're really at the forefront in terms of kind of schedules going forward, and that we take ownership of. But so we're going to take a couple of questions as well. I can see the Q&A just popping up. And Peter Ficken, who I went to school with his beautiful daughters, actually. He said, what are your swing thoughts when playing? On the driving range, there are many thoughts happening. Which are too many when playing? So I guess what are your main swing thoughts, and how to narrow that down when you're playing?
Well, any more than one is probably too many. I mean, and there's swing thoughts and there's swing feels. I think the more we think golf, the further away we get from the answer. The more we feel golf, the closer to the answer we get. So I would suggest a swing feel. You know, my best times have been like kind of a rhythm feel, you know, like a kind of I feel a certain sort of rhythm. And again, golf is difficult to teach because you can't it's a feel, and you can't describe what you feel in words, you know. Bob Vokey, actually, the wedge, Bob Vokey, keep name dropping, but he had this great phrase. It's like, try to describe to somebody what it feels like to be wet who's never been wet. Because how would you describe what it feels like to be wet? You say, well, I feel wet, you know. So the golf is the same. How do I describe to someone how my golf feels in words? You can't do it. I don't have words to describe what it feels like. But you know what feels good and what feels bad instinctively. If you get out of your way and stop thinking, am I doing it right? Just do what feels good, I would say, basically. I mean, there's obviously some basic rules and parameters to stay behind, but you can think about golf all you like, but when you're playing it, you can't think about it. You have to feel about it. One swing feel, not one swing thought. How about that?
Love it. Yeah, good summary. So Chris Brophy's written in saying, I assume you won multiple monthly medals. Can you remember your first, or maybe your first big win at Vic? Might be an easier question.
I can't remember specifically monthly medals. I didn't get on the board very much. I think I'm on the junior championship. Might have been. There's not a lot of boards at Vic. You know, they're hard to get on. Because I didn't do the 4-ball, the founders and all those ones. I would do the junior championship, the club championship. I can't remember a medal win per se. I know I probably won a couple. Maybe it wouldn't have been. I don't remember many of them if there was. Junior championship, I think. And you'd have to look in the board downstairs to see what year that was.
Okay.
95 or something, maybe.
We'll get someone on it. We'll get the fact checkers out. I'm sure Mr. Stackpole's going through the record books as we speak. Jessica Clark has written in. G'day, Jess. Did you or do you have any mindfulness techniques that you use while you were playing?
I kind of read a bit about. I mean, maybe I did before I knew what you would call them. Like you wouldn't call them mindfulness techniques, but I did. Weirdly enough, and they all say that, I did often, if I felt like I was getting a bit sort of nervous or headless, or if I had the presence of mind, I would just breathe. Seriously. I'd feel the heat of wherever the sun came from and I would breathe. Just focus on breathing. It's very hard to think about, to consciously think about anything other than your breathing if you're thinking about your breathing. And that's kind of the mindfulness thing, right? It's just to kind of, it's not stop thinking, but you're thinking like not random. It's cliche, but I would breathe towards the end or relax. I would think about my feet, count footsteps down the fairway, you know, in units of 12 or some random number. So I have to count to 12 footsteps and count them again, count footsteps or something. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
You know?
I haven't heard the counting one. I know that Kari used to, in her heyday, she used to shut her eyes and try and listen to where all the birds were. She used to try by the birds chirping around her. That kind of helped.
Get a song in your head. A lot of guys will get a song in their head.
Yeah.
You know, sing a song the whole week. Just that's their kind of mantra. They just keep running through the chorus of their song or whatever in their head.
Yeah, fair enough.
Whatever to keep you thinking, why am I shit? Why can't I hit it down the fairway? All that. Anything to stop that train of thought, right? It's good.
Exactly. And you were always so well tempered on the golf course. I'm sure you didn't need too many techniques. All right, last question, because everyone seems to be writing in now, which is great, but we're going to struggle to get through all of them. So I'm going to say, as Marcus Haslam has written in, he's a new dad. So how do you juggle kind of golf and tour golf and family? What was your experience? It's always tricky to do.
Yeah, well, it was tough because the production, as you know, you're not meant to travel with young kids. It's not a thing that you're meant to do. Like the system isn't set up to travel with a baby, right? So doing that and working at the same time is a challenge and it's an adjustment. But the tour, we're doing it on a good budget. Mm-hmm. The PGA Tour has this amazing daycare setup that the same sort of teachers, we called them, but they were kind of 2 guys and 2 girls, and the security every week, and they would go to a local school or they'd be in the hotel that everyone was staying in. We would just drop your kids off and they would look after them and take them on field trips and do all the stuff they would have done at a home daycare on tour, but with all their mates, like Ben Crane kids and Zach Johnson's kids and Ben Curtis's kids, and my kids were all in there at the same time, right? So it was as easy as it could be. And then as they got to school age and they had to stay at home, it was the decision to take them out of school or to miss your kids, and it got a bit stickier then. Thus, I didn't do it forever because I kind of wanted to be with them more than I wanted to be on tour, right? But yeah, at first it was kind of fun and a bit of an adventure, but it wears you out after a while, sure. You're not meant to travel with young kids. Oh my goodness.
Tricky. It's tricky. A lot of people in ISO are working out exactly what your experience is probably pretty similar to. But Geoff, when we look back at the range of topics that we've covered tonight, you've just had such a multifaceted career, and one which no doubt will continue to evolve for many years to come. And as ever, all of the members at Vic will be there watching and supporting you in whatever endeavours you go and do going forward, and however your voice in golf develops. So with that, I'm going to throw down to our captain, David Brophy, to wrap things up.
Thanks, Ali. Good evening, Geoff. How are you?
G'day, Brophy. You didn't have to do your hair for us.
Yeah, no, it's what's it going to be like by October 26th? I just a quick thank you. Terrific night, great information. It's a privilege to watch two pros in action, even if it's not on the golf course. So very good. Great stories, fascinating insights and into the game of golf. And it's lovely having such a local connection. So everyone, very local and great members of Victoria Golf Club. So thank you. We really appreciate it. I'm sure all the members who joined in appreciated. We hope to catch up soon back at the golf course, but that's not within our control. So again, Ali, thanks for hosting. Geoff, thanks for giving up your time. Thank you.